All right, welcome, welcome, my fabulous Sonder family. Can you believe we're getting ready to start up the September journal? We're getting ready to set that up. So it is so great to see everyone here, Want to just clarify, nobody's actually on camera but me, and I can't hear anyone either. So you don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff, right? This is just all about me walking you through this September journal, getting those big pieces set up. And with me tonight is Bailey, one of our other fabulous facilitators. She will be stage managing. So she will be checking the chat. If you have any questions, if anything's, kind of going on, she can kind of keep an eye on that. I try to keep an eye as well, but sometimes that chat gets going fast. So that also brings me to the point of the chat can get going really fast. There's usually upwards of 200 people here. And so it can really kind of get scrolling. Don't let that stress you out, especially if you're new, right? So a lot of times folks will join and they just kind of watch the chat, they contribute to the chat, and they take notes for how they want to set things up, right? They've got sticky notes, they've got a notepad, they're kind of writing everything down. And then when they get done with the call, then that's when they start working in their journal. Other people come and sign in and they just ignore the chat, right? And they are just nose in the journal, working on setting that up. Whatever works for you, right? So especially if you're new, don't let this be a source of like concern or, oh my gosh, I can't keep up with the chat, or oh my gosh, I've got to hurry up and finish this page before we go on to the next thing. So don't let that panic you. Also, I do see some conversation in the chat. Unfortunately, we could not schedule any of the weekly setups this weekend because of the holiday weekend and facilitator schedules. So that Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we will not have a weekly setup. They should, if you had signed up for it, they should have sent you a link to a recording that you can watch. You can also, and I will, tonight at the very end, I will show you the mind map page. So you can take a picture of that when you're working on setting up your week. I am so sorry. It just, with all of our schedules and everyone's out of town. And my husband said, well, can you facilitate from your phone? And I said, oh no, that would not work at all. That would be kind of a hot mess. So I apologize for that. I know that can be kind of a stressful thing because a lot of you really look forward to those weekend setups, and we look forward to them too, right? So deep breath, it's going to be okay. We've got lots of recordings out there. We'll make sure that you have that. If you have any questions about that, they have a PDF that they can send out to folks. Send an email to hello@silkandsonder.com. Let them know you'd like the mind map from this weekend. And of course, the following weekend, we'll go over both week 1 and week 2, and it will be just fine, right? So take a weekend off, right? And you can kind of spend that time as you see fit. So another thing for our new folks, make sure you set your Zoom chat to everyone. There's a little picture right there where it shows, make sure it says everyone and not host and panelist, because that way everyone can kind of see, they can see what you're writing. So if you ever notice you type something in there, a comment, and no one's responding to you, if you had a question or something, it could be because it's set to host and panelist. So make sure you flip that. So other guidelines for tonight, just so you know, we want to make sure that this is a safe and positive and supportive space. So we ask that you're kind and courteous both to yourself and to others. No promotions or spam, respecting everyone's privacy, obviously no hate speech or bullying, limit those repetitive product and accessory questions. If you've got questions about what kind of pens do you use, what kind of stickers, what kind of washi tape, a great place to put that is in the Sonder Club, because then you can get lots of people giving you links and you're not worried about trying to keep up with the chat there, right? And again, redirect any of those customer care inquiries to our team, hello@silkandsonder.com. And remember that they are a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 kind of thing. So sometimes it might take them a little while to get back to you. And ultimately, remember, these socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So again, if there's ever anything you're working on, you're like, this isn't my groove, I don't want to fill this out, right? you can just totally skip on to the next one. Music's not doing it for you. You can put it on mute and make sure the closed captioning is on. And so you can kind of see when I pop back in to talk, right? So this is really for you. And I came across this, there's a fun Heather Stillifson. I follow her on Instagram and she does these beautiful little drawings, but she had this one in there today where it says, there's a certain feeling in the air when August comes to a close, a pang of sadness and longing for what was, mingled together with the excitement of what's to come. And I love that because I don't know about you, but sometimes I kind of feel Labor Day is kind of this culmination of end of summer, and then you're kind of switching over. I'll type her name in the chat for you, Pamela. But she has these really pretty things. But I thought this was really nice because there's sadness and longing for what was mingled together with the excitement of what's to come. So what's to come, you might ask? We are going to flourish this month, right? Definitely time to flourish. And I think this is such a fun theme to kind of think about. I did also find this little graphic that says you got to nourish to flourish. And I love that idea, right? Nourish to flourish, nourish in terms of good food to nourish your body, good things to watch to nourish your brain, coming to the socials, working on setting up your journal, setting up habits, setting up intentions, those kinds of things are all ways that we can nourish ourselves so that we can flourish. Oh, and I'm so sorry, Kimberly's saying she got COVID. That's it'll be hard to flourish, but we know you can. Hopefully you'll be feeling better soon. And then also I did put the little definition from our journal in there from page 3 that just says flourish is to grow or develop in a healthy or vigorous way, especially as the result of a particularly favorable environment. So we're going to dig into a lot of that this month, how you can flourish, ways that you can kind of get that flourishing feeling as we dive into those fall months, right? I always like to encourage everyone, if you haven't had a chance or you skip over this part, which, we all do, right? We get excited to dig into the journal and we skip some of those intro pages. On page 2, Meha, our founder, always writes us this fabulous letter. It's always, we call it like her love letter to us, to the Sonder fam, where she kind of talks about what she's thinking about as she comes into this next month, how she's feeling about the theme, how she came to this theme. And she talks about the excitement for fall, how a lot of times we're like excited for fall, even if we're not in school anymore, although I know there's lots of my school folk here with me, but excitement for the fall, this limitless desire to learn, being in flow, being energized and unstoppable. And then she also talks about maybe looking for those small self-care hacks. And so we'll definitely be talking about that a little bit as well. So the agenda for tonight, we're going to do a little opening activity. We're going to reflect on August. We're going to set our September intentions, work on our mood tracker and our habit tracker. I always like to include these two little cartoons. These are from the latest Kate. And one says there's room for you here just as you are. And so I always tell people, like, if things are going great and you want to celebrate, you got a promotion at work, you got engaged, you got married, you have kiddos who are in school, any of those kinds of things, share that with us. We love, love, love to celebrate with our Sonder fam, right? However, sometimes we know life isn't all celebrations, right? Sometimes there's some stressful things that are happening and sometimes things that are not going well. We have someone who has COVID, right? That's still around. It's still a thing. Folks getting sick, loved ones who are ill, loved ones or pets who have passed away, lots of, loss of a job, different kinds of things happening. Share that with us as well. We're here to support you. Sometimes it's nice just to hear somebody say, like, oh my gosh, thinking of you, so sorry that this happened, kind of holding a space for you as you go through this tough time. So don't ever feel like you're like, oh, this is too positive, I don't want to share, or this is too negative, I don't want to share. Again, we're here to share. And the other one says, the way you feel matters. No emotion you feel is bad or unworthy. Our emotions are our emotions. No one can tell us how we can and can't feel or should or shouldn't feel, right? So this is what you're feeling is what you're feeling. And so we're here to feel the feels with all of you, right? So let's turn to, you should have some blank pages since this is a new journal, right? We always laugh at the end of the month because we tell you to turn to a blank page and you're like, I don't have any blank pages. But hopefully you have a blank page so far here in September. So we're going to turn to a blank page. And I know this says jar. I'm going to show you what I did. But so it's called a flourishing jar. So in this blank page or your scratch pad or your thoughts journal, we want you to draw, you could draw a jar, you could draw a bowl, just some sort of container, something to kind of hold these things. And throughout the month, starting with tonight, kind of thinking, brainstorming some, write one thing in the jar that you're proud of yourself for. Use this to reflect throughout the month on your accomplishments and all the ways you've grown. So this really is about you and your accomplishments. They can be small accomplishments, like I got out of bed this morning, or I took a shower, right? Or they can be big accomplishments. Maybe you graduated with your degree, you got a new job. I saw someone said they got a new job after having been laid off for several months, right? So that definitely is an accomplishment, right? So you could use the gratitude jar for this if you wanted to, if you weren't going to use it. We do have a social where we talk about the gratitude jar, but again, totally up to you. But I'll show you what I did because I wasn't feeling the jar vibe. So I had to go with that alliteration kind of idea. So I have a flourishing flute glass, right? So like a little champagne glass that I drew, right? And so I'm filling that up with my accomplishments. So the first thing I was thinking of are some of my big accomplishments, right? I got my PhD. I've been at my job for 14 years. I've been married for 22 years. And I have a zero balance on my credit cards. I worked very hard over the last few years to get those down. And so to me, those are really big accomplishments and really help me feel like I am flourishing. There's lots of other things that I can probably think of throughout the month. And so there's room still in my glass. Thank you, Felicia. And there's room on the side. So totally up to you, however you want to draw this, right? However you want to do this. But the whole point is, what we want you to do throughout the month is to think of your accomplishments, big and small, right? So I'm going to play a little bit of music. I'm going to let you work on that, and then we'll check back in. But feel free to share any of your accomplishments with us that you're sharing in your either jar or flute glass or bowl or whatever you would like. All right. All right. So I loved some of the other ideas. Brenda was going to do flourishing flowers. So you could totally do that. We have a flourishing flask. You could totally write that as well. And other people reminded me of other accomplishments, like we did a bedroom redo, we did some painting, got a new bed, that kind of thing. That was definitely an accomplishment. Yeah. So the idea is, I mean, I put some big ones. Those were like my 4 big ones that I first thought of. But I want to, for the rest of the month, just kind of list them out in there for all the small and big things that I do. Things like decluttering, taking a couple bags of stuff to the Goodwill, reading a certain number of books that I want to. Maybe it's for having a piece of fruit instead of a chocolate bar, right? All these different kinds of accomplishments that we can do. And we can look back on this, right? And see, like, I have done things. Have you ever caught yourself saying, like, I haven't done anything? I'm not accomplished, right? And then this list will give you that. Yes, you are. Yes, you are accomplished. So again, whatever you put in there is fabulous, right? We got folks with promotions. We got people that held it together when they received some hard news, bad news, feeling the feelings instead of trying to squash those down and move those away. Kimberly's going to do a flourishing fountain. Oh, I like that idea of things spraying out of the fountain into a pool. So you guys are so creative. This is so fabulous. All these super, super fun ways to do different kinds of things. Bought my first house. Maybe, got my new car. So again, this is just for you throughout the month to write something in your jar or your fountain or your flask or your flute glass or whatever you have, accomplishments, big and small, so you can look back and really see these are the things that shows that we're flourishing throughout this month, right? All right, so let's dive into our monthly planner. So first, we're going to do some August reflections. And this is always really important. I think it's easy for us to jump forward into the next month. If you're like me, you're always barreling through to the next thing, right? And you forget to kind of look back and think about what happened this last month. So this is on page 8, right? And we're going to think about our wins. We're going to think about our challenges from August, our favorite moments, and then what we want to start, stop, and continue as we move forward into the month of September. So wins are something that you did that made you smile, something that made you happy, an accomplishment. You might want to look back at your rosebud thorn sections. If you've been with us previous months, you could look back in August and see those weekly rosebud thorns, and those can kind of help you give an idea for the wins. Also for the challenges, maybe it's something that didn't go right, something out of your control, some sort of a stumbling block or a frustration or a stressor, right? Those are your challenges. Again, these could be some rosebud thorns that you've looked at from August. I also recommend to folks to use your phone and look through your calendar and look through your photos from the last month. It would always be, it's always very surprising to me when I look back through my pictures and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that. Oh yeah, I forgot we went here. Oh yeah, I forgot we did this. So spend some time maybe scrolling back through those pictures as you think of that. And obviously favorite moments are just things that you really enjoy, the things that you would consider kind of your favorite moment. And those could be the same thing as your wins, right? So don't feel like you have to come up with all brand new things, and don't feel like you have to fill up every single line, right? Things that we want to start, stop, and continue. So maybe starting things, maybe there are things that aren't being done, but you want to start them. You want to bring something into your life. Maybe there are things to begin doing to get better results. Maybe there are things worth trying or experimenting with for better results. So it's a nice thing about a new month, right? Is we can kind of look back at the last month and kind of see, all right, what did I kind of do last month? How are things going? And what do I want to kind of change up? What do I want to start going into September? And what are some things that I want to stop? What are some things that aren't working, things that aren't helping me anymore? Maybe they're impeding my progress. Maybe they're not practical. Maybe there are things that are not delivering the desired results that I want. Maybe there are things I dislike, but for some reason I keep doing them. Have you ever noticed we do things sometimes that we don't like, but we just kind of think we have to? Maybe there are things that no longer serve you, right? And that's important to think about. Sometimes a habit or something we've been doing served us at one point, but it no longer serves us. So we can let that go. We can stop doing that. And then to continue, what are those things that are working well? What are those things we want to keep? Things we want to continue to see if they're worthwhile, things that we like, things that we need. I almost always in my stop procrastinating. And I think, oh, I'll do that later. Ha ha ha. But again, writing things down, thinking about these things, looking back at them can really help. So spend these next few moments reflecting on August. Feel free to share with us in the chat if you'd like any part here. And we'll check back in here in just a moment. If I can get my mouse to work. All right. So I saw lots of fun wins, definitely lots of challenges. Hugs to all our folks who are going through various challenges, job losses, loss of family members, pets, those kinds of things. Definitely, definitely tough. Let's see, favorite, favorite, all your fun wins, your favorite moments. One of the things that I wrote that I wanted to start this month is showing myself more self-compassion. I am very hard on myself, and it's getting a little much. And so I think maybe September will be my self-compassion month. And I saw lots of folks talking about having a sober September, no alcohol. I will tell you, I don't know how many months ago I really stopped drinking alcohol. Every once in a while I'll have a glass of something, but I've just decided alcohol doesn't do nice things for my body, right? So I kind of am of the feeling of I eat and drink foods and beverages that I love that love me back. And I don't think alcohol loves me back. So again, very occasionally, but I think, kudos to you for trying that for a month and kind of seeing how it feels. And journaling will be a good place. I also realized I forgot to point this out, but I did have some examples of what some other folks have done in the past for their reflections. So hopefully feeling good about reflecting on August, and now we can feel good to jump into September and set our intentions for September. So flip over to that next page. That's going to be on page 9, where we have 6 different categories. We have spiritual health, personal life, physical health, key relationships, money management, and professional goals. Now, if any of these categories don't speak to you, feel free to change them, right? Get some of the cream colored correction tape, scratch that out, and then put, write in something else. I know we have some folks who are retired. They said they don't really have professional goals, but they have learning goals or maybe gardening goals. Money management maybe isn't something that you necessarily want to have intentions or work on. Again, you could change this over to creative goals. So you could use that theme of flourish to set your intention. So for example, you could say, I want to flourish in my personal life by spending more time with friends and family, right? Maybe you want to focus on an area like self-love or self-talk. Maybe you want to use the name of a song or a tune or some song lyrics that inspire you in each of these. Sometimes I'll pick an artist and find lyrics or quotes that they have and write those in for each of those areas. Think about how you're wanting to feel this month in each area. You can use stickers or colors, images that you have. Maybe in each one, you want to think of something you want to let go and something you want to start doing. So let me show you some examples. First of all, one person uses sticky notes when she works on this during the socials because she wants to really have more time to kind of think about it. So she just jots her quick notes down on the sticky notes and then later decides how she wants to formulate that out and put that in there. So for those of us who don't like scribbling in our journals and don't like having to cross things out, right? You can always, those sticky notes are going to be your friend while you work on these sections, because sometimes it takes a little bit of thought, right? So here's some ideas for folks who have incorporated art. So I love our super creative and lovely drawings from our Sonder fam. So fun. That would not be me. I've been working on trying to do more fun drawing, but I'm not quite here yet. I also like the one that it's kind of in that bottom over on where there's a space for reflection. So they kind of blanked out the money management and just put review. So they're going to kind of review how they did with each one of those areas. You can also, again, changing those intentions to fit your life. So someone put home and garden management, they have learnings, they have creative life instead of personal life. Trying to see what else, mental health instead of spiritual health. Trying to see what the other one, volunteer management. So volunteers instead of money management. So again, kind of think of some fun, different ways that you want to set these up. The other thing I forgot to mention to some of our new folks is, well, and our returning folks too, it's always a good idea to maybe take some screenshots or take a picture with your camera of some of these so that you can go back later and look. And there is, of course, the link that you can watch the recording, so you can always catch some of these if you happen to miss something. You're like, oh shoot, what was that one that somebody did? Here's some other fun examples. We have some meaningful quotes. We have someone who used some fun stickers. We have someone who, this is from last month about tranquility, and she decided that she wanted to invite tranquility by, and then she put the things in each box. Yes, Brenda, it was you. I didn't want to call you out if you didn't want to say that. Oh, and Crystal's is on the top left. Oh, it's so lovely that we have our Sonder fam who made these fabulous things, right? We have such fun, creative folks here. But again, it's kind of fun sometimes to think about how you can incorporate the theme. So I was thinking like, I will flourish in my physical health by going on a 15-minute walk every day, right? So kind of thinking of different ways that you could, oh, Stephanie's here and hers is in the middle. We have everybody here. I love it. So wonderful. We really do use real life people's examples. So just so you know, here's some other fun ones. The ones on the right and the left side are different versions of a more or less, right? So I love the one they have kind of the less than, greater than signs. So more mindfulness, less worry, more abundance, less fear. Awesome. Oh, Diana, yours are beautiful little like envelopes with the colored. I love that. So pretty there in the middle. And then the other one, they did the more or less, and they just kind of wrote more and then they wrote less, right? So super fun ways to kind of go about thinking about each one of these areas. And remember, you don't have to fill up every single box, right? Maybe you say, okay, this month in September, I really want to work on my physical health and my money management, right? And then just put some stickers and color in the other sections and just focus on those 2 boxes, right? You do not have to fill in every single box. Sometimes it kind of helps to maybe be a little more focused for the month. So I'm going to cycle through these so that you can see these super fun examples. And I'll leave this up here for a second too, if you want some other ideas. Feel free to let us know kind of what you're putting in each of these. If you're repurposing any of these areas, let us know. And we will check back in here in just a few minutes.
All right, so hopefully you have some good ideas for what to put in there. I saw Bailey did put a link in the chat for a really nice blog post from Silk and Sonder about the importance of setting intentions and how that can be helpful. So you might want to take a moment and read that to kind of see as they offer some guidance. I saw some other folks asking, what's the difference between personal life and key relationships? Again, it could be one and the same. Both Bailey and I use the personal life as something more about what we do personally, kind of like for ourselves or with ourselves. And then the key relationships is more about loved ones. So spouses, family, could be friends, those kinds of things. But again, it's really what you make it and what you need to see, right? So hopefully you've got some good ideas. Again, you can fill in all 6, you can fill in just 1. And we always try to remind you when we do the weekly setups to look back at this section. I can't tell you how many times I've spent a lot of time filling this out and making it all lovely, and then I never look at it again for the rest of the month, right? So not helpful. So we'll try to remind you, but you might even, when you do your weekly habits, you might even make one of your weekly habits to check your intentions page, right? So you can kind of keep reminding yourself those intentions that you set. So hopefully lots of good ideas, lots of fun ways to set this up for this section. Let's jump now into our mood tracker. And I do want to remind everyone that tonight's social, the monthly setups are 15 minutes longer. So they're an hour and 15 minutes. So if for any reason that you have to hop off early, no worries. There is the recording. It'll probably take a little while for it to get posted on there. And Bailey can share that link with you as well. Although I think I noticed the other day when I went on to Silk and Sonder's just regular YouTube page, I feel like they were all there. I feel like they weren't hidden in the secret playlist anymore. So I don't know, maybe that was just me. But you can tell me if you, yeah, so Silk and Sonder YouTube has been blowing up. I think they're moving them over to that page so you don't have to have that special link anymore. So try, if you go onto YouTube, just search for Silk Plus, use the little plus sign Sonder, and then you'll get their webpage to come up and you can find, I mean, we've got, goodness, over 500 videos from different setups and journal socials and those kinds of things that you can watch. The chat's not there, but the screen is, so you can kind of see what's on there. So our mood tracker is over on page 10. So why would we do this? Why do I want to track my moods? Well, so we can understand those trends in how we're feeling. You'd be surprised sometimes. Have you ever noticed how you say, oh, I'm always tired, I'm always angry, I'm always frustrated,
right? We tend to kind of go to those extremes. But if you actually track some of these things for the month, often you can look back and say, oh, I guess that really isn't true as I look back at this data sheet, right? We had one of our Sonder family members share with us that her husband was saying something about like, you're always angry or something like that. And she says, no, I'm not. Look at my mood tracker. I can show you on these days I was experiencing joy. And on these days I had this. And on these days I had that. Right. And it was funny because then he couldn't argue with her anymore because she had this nice little tracker here. So you can kind of use this for tracking those moods. And then you can really notice and start making those shifts and bring those tools into what works when positive moods show up for us. So here's a few tips and tricks. You can pick 2 negative feelings, 1 neutral, and maybe 2 or 3 positive feelings. We might want to focus on flourishing this month. So someone could say, you could do like on a scale of 0 to 5 or 1 to 6 for how flourishing you felt for the day. You could fill in every emotion that came up that day. You could fill in whatever was strongest. You could use stickers, colored pens, doodles, any of those kinds of things to create your key for this. Let's see oops, I lost my train of thought. So I will put this on there so you can kind of see the feelings wheel. So if you want to pick some different words, oh, I know what I was going to tell you. So for me, trying to track every single mood that I feel in a day would just be a big, they would just all be black because I would have to put every color in there and it would just kind of all blend together. So what I started doing is at noon, I have an alarm that goes off on my Fitbit that tells me it's time to take my noon supplement. And so when I take my supplement, I mark down the mood that I'm feeling right then. So it's my noon mood, right? And so it's kind of interesting. It's been really interesting to see. I can see some trends sometimes in the days or kind of what's going on. So yeah, thanks, Bailey. It's my habit stacking, right? So we stack those habits up like the Atomic Habits book talks about doing. And so that works really nicely. And it's a specific time every day. Some people like to track how they feel in the morning when they get up and then how they're feeling when they get ready to go to bed. Again, it's just kind of for you when you think of what do you want to track? What do you want to see? So you could change it up every month too. So let's show some examples. Oh, so we've got hexagons this month, right? And this is on page 10. So I did realize we do hexagons for the month that are 30 days or less, right? So the 30 days has September, April, June, and November and February, right? Because it has fewer. All the rest have the circle mood. So I know we have some team hexagon and we have some team circle folks. So this month it's hexagons. And I know it drives people crazy that there's like the one missing down in the bottom. You could draw your own little hexagon and it could be like at the bottom and it could be overall mood for the month, right? Whatever works for you. Just know next month we'll be back to the circle. I know, yeah, Brenda's like team hexagon besides the missing one. So here's some examples of hexagons. You can see someone did some stripes to track some of those different moods. Someone had some fun little stickers that they used. And I love Cheryl saying, been doing this for a few months. I track my self-talk, kind to myself, meh, and unkind or judgy. That's a great idea to really kind of help you think about how you're talking to yourself throughout the month. Yeah, Michelle, I thought the same thing about hexagons being perfect for the 31-day months. I don't know. When I rule the world, there's a lot of things I'm going to change, and that would probably be one of them. Actually, what I would do is I would make it so that every day had every month started on a Monday and all had the same number. And then we would just have to add a month, and that's okay. I'm good with that. But anyway, until that day, we just have to deal with, I know, yeah, we have to break up with the perfection ideas that we want. So here's some other examples of how people did the hexagons, how they did some coloring. I like the one down on the bottom where they're tracking emotions with the first 3 and the energy with the other 3. So they have a picture for manic, balanced, or depressed, and then they highlight around the edges to talk about what their energy level is for the day. So that's kind of a cool idea, tracking energy level and your emotions. So kind of seeing, does there seem to be a relationship between those two? And then also you can see the one on the bottom left is a book tracker. They've repurposed it to track books. So they've got that. We've also got the one up on the top that has kind of tracking anxiety or panic attack, right? So they have panic attack, heavy anxiety, frequent, moderate, light, or none. And again, happy, sad, joy, peace, hopeless, alone. And they did some really pretty kind of coloring in to take a look at that. Oh, and Carolyn says, restarted meditation. I'm going to try to use this to track my number of mindful minutes each day. Excellent idea. So here's some more. We have a self-care tracker where they're tracking different things they did for self-care, emotional, physical, social, spiritual, mental, and creative. Again, some more moods up in the top left: happy, inspired, flirty, sad or tired, anxious or irritable. Then the one up in the top right has their workouts, that they are kind of tracking what type of workout they did. And I do like to suggest to folks who are new, right, and you haven't used this before, to use it as intended. So to use it to track specific moods. And again, I'll show you that mood wheel, and just pick 6 moods that you kind of want to see how it falls out, right? What it looks like, and see how that works for you this month. Here's some other ways to repurpose. You could have it as a daily affirmation tracker, tracking anxiety levels, depression levels, tracking a certain feeling. Here's an example of anxiety tracker, right, where they have panic, high, moderate, scattered, low, or none levels of anxiety. So this is also good if you're working with a therapist, and you can take this to them so they can kind of see what your month looked like with this particular feeling and offer some suggestions. This is one that I did. And I'll tell you a secret. I made this all pretty and did all this stuff, and then I never tracked anything, right? So facilitators, we even get into that that habit too, where we make everything pretty and then we forget to go back and use it. But my idea was I was tracking learning in different modes of learning. So maybe I was reading a book for work, or I was doing a webinar, or I watched a TED Talk. I was doing a particular training called Keys to Literacy, watching a YouTube video, reading a research article. And so it was fun to make this tracker. I might do it again at some point, maybe not be quite as elaborate, and maybe only track a couple different things. But the idea was this aligned to my intentions for my personal goal, right? So kind of worked in that fashion. And again, here's some more repurposing ones. Again, they're in the circle, so it would look a little bit different for your hexagons, but book trackers, reading. I'm not sure if they were tracking, the reading is my jam, if they were tracking pages or they were tracking minutes, but either way, you could track either. The person down in the bottom right, purpose fuels passion. She was tracking things that she was doing for her business. So maybe she was doing education or training folks, doing a group post, invites, creating a design, social media post, that kind of thing. Oh, yes, she is here. I love when our folks are here. And then we also have someone tracking, again, more work, Peloton, right? So resistance bands, rides, arms, stretching. So they're, again, kind of tracking their workouts. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. Don't feel overwhelmed by all the options, right? Just kind of look through here, pick what looks good to you. I'll cycle through again. Again, remember, take a screenshot. Oh, let me go back to that one. So you can just kind of get an idea of different ways to use this, right? Kind of like different things that you might want to track, that you might want to, at the end of the month, be able to look back and say, oh, look, this happened X number of days, right? So we'll start on this page. Feel free to share with us kind of what you're tracking. If you're tracking some emotions, if you're tracking some, if you're tracking books, if you're tracking whatever, and take those pictures, and we'll check back in here in just a few minutes. All right. Lots of good ideas in the chat about how you're going to use this. We had someone who said, I work at home and I'm so bad about getting up and getting away from my computer. I use this to track my breaks and, kind of getting that in. So that is fabulous. Yes. And some people like to track multiple feelings through the day. If you find a good way to do that, by all means, check those out. So many fun ways to do it. But like I said, I think it's always good when you're first starting out just to use it as intended, just to kind of see how that feels. You can always switch it up halfway through the month if you're like, you know what, I don't need to track my moods. Like that's not a thing. To track something else, right? Again, you can scribble in your journal. It's okay. None of us will ever show up on your door and ask to see your journal and give you a demerit if there's scribbles or things crossed out or things that are changed, right? I promise it's your journal, it's for you, so make it work for you. And the great thing is every month you get a new chance to try out something new, to be like, okay, what other ways could I maybe use this? I still kind of struggle with the mood tracker, finding the best thing that I want to track that I would actually that would be interesting to me to kind of see what it looked like at the end of the month. So for our last piece, we're going to flip over to our habit tracker, which is on page 11. And here you can maybe start to do some new habits. Maybe you want to stop doing habits that don't serve you, and you want to continue those habits that are bringing you value. So really kind of think about what your habits are, what you maybe want to do. You can use flourish again as your theme. So think about those different ways that you could maybe flourish. Pick a theme like grounded, calm, joy, or delight. Continue some habits from last month. It's okay to bring habits over from the previous month. If you're really saying, gosh, I put this in my habit tracker and it's really working well, bring it on over, right? It's not going to hurt anything. And be sure you find a balance. Make sure you're finding some habits that you can do, ones that you've got pretty established, right? Yeah, maybe wanting to continue with the same habits until you get them second nature. And then ones that are going to be trickier to commit to. You do not want to come up with, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines of brand new habits, right? That's just going to be frustrating. It's too much. It's going to be too overwhelming. Maybe think of 1 or 2 new things and add some things that you've been working on, right? Go back to your flourishing jar or your flourishing flask or your flourishing flowers or whatever you decided to draw there at the beginning of our social. Maybe there's some habits that you could track that would lead to an accomplishment for your jar. So is there a particular habit that you could work on this month that would help you say, look, I accomplished this, right? And you don't have to fill in every single line. So let's look at some examples of things people have done. Some people do beautiful coloring. They have very, very pretty, I live a life full of colors, and they certainly do. They have all these pretty colors in there. Other people just, again, have some color, and then they're just kind of tracking different things or writing different kinds of things within the habit wheel. Notice that she's outlined the weekends, and I find that really helpful sometimes. So I can see, like, are there some habits that I'm really good at doing during the week and I kind of fall off on the weekends? And maybe that's something, maybe that's okay, or maybe I really do want to keep it up on the weekend. And so I can focus on looking at that as I go forward. So some people will also ask, what's the difference between these monthly habits versus the weekly habits? Because if you notice on the weekly spread pages, there's always the habit/activities that will be on there. These monthlies are ones that you want to track every day, and weeklies you may only track a few times a week or track for a single week in the month. So this page really is for things you want to do pretty much every single day this month, right? And here's some other examples, things that people use, some different pretty little pictures. They have different little icons that they're going to use to kind of color in. And I liked this little quote from Atomic Habits. If you want to predict where you'll end up in life, all you have to do is follow the curve of tiny gains or tiny losses and see how your daily choices will compound 10 or 20 years down the line. And that's really what we're going for here, right? We're not going for a quick fix. We're not going for something like, if I do this for 10 days, then I'm done, or this is over, right? We really want this in 10 years or in 20 years, how are these daily choices going to actually impact what I see down the road, right? Here's some other examples. Again, you can see like the one up on the right-hand side, they have 4 things and nothing else, and they kind of just colored in those lines. And ask yourself, if you're bringing things over from the previous month, which is absolutely fine, but always be sure to ask yourself, does this habit still serve me, or am I blindly following an old routine? Is there something I'm doing that maybe isn't necessarily getting me to where I want to go, but I'm just doing it because I've gotten so good at having it in my habits? And maybe maybe something else could take its place, right? So kind of think about what that looks like as you move forward. And here's some other examples if you just need something to kind of, you're like, I don't know what to add in here, right? Like, I'm not really sure. There's always things like drinking water, spending 10 or 15 minutes decluttering. I like to give myself time on some of these. So if I want to remember that I want to knit on a daily basis, I'll say knit for 10 minutes or knit for 15 minutes. Or if I'm working on a really big project, I'll say knit 2 rows or something like that, right? And Bailey's popping in another really good blog post about the habit tracker, right? And kinds of things that you can add in there. So be careful with what you put in, right? Because again, you want to make sure that you're being really thoughtful. And maybe you just want to add a couple right now and then think about it for the next few days and then maybe add some more in later. So feel free to let us know what you're going to put here in the habit tracker, what you're going to track here. And I think that was the last one. Yep. So I'll cycle through these little pictures for you to see and the little instructions, and we'll check back here in a few minutes and wrap things up. Okay, so hopefully you have some ideas for what habits you want to list here and what you want to track. I saw a lot of folks saying, like, how many do you usually start with when you're new? 3 is a great number, right? 4 would work. You could always do just 2 or 1. Again, it's kind of like whatever works. I know some people, they'll do like the top 2 lines will be morning habits, and then the bottom 2 lines will be evening habits. And then they just kind of blank out the middle. So there's some things they want to do in the morning, things they want to do in the evening, and it's a nice way to track. And I saw Taylor had a really good recommendation, some good advice, saying one of the things you might want to write on here for habits, especially if you're new, is spend time in my Silk and Sonder journal, because that way you can give yourself credit for it. You can check it off, and you're spending time in your journal. So it gives you that time to focus on that, right? Love those ideas there. And that's the great thing about these socials, right? Is we can all kind of share all these fun, different ideas. I did want to give you this page so you could take a quick little screenshot, because a lot of times people will ask, what do you do for your sleep tracker? Like, I don't need to track my sleep, or I track my sleep with my smartwatch, so I don't really need it on pencil paper. So we've had some people use it to track their work breaks, right? And I used it for that for 1 month when I was getting really bad about not getting up from my desk. And some people use it to track their workouts, right? Some people have used it for a cleaning log, so keeping track of different rooms that they want to clean, or a bingo list, or a learning log, or books that they've read, vacations, those kinds of things. Leslie Singh uses it for a pain tracker. Again, anything that you want to keep track of, maybe you want to show a doctor, maybe you want to show a therapist, something that you just kind of have that you can take a look at. So again, repurpose for however you need to. So yes, Samantha, I'm going to tell you about the mind map right now, I promise. So do share your planner, because you can see we got all those great examples from real life folks who are here with us tonight. So we love when you can share those pictures, and then we can share those great ideas with the family. I'll go back to this slide here in a second, but I want to make sure that you see the mind map. So take a picture of this. So we do the mind map on the weekly setups, which are usually on the weekends. Again, I apologize, we don't have any this weekend because of the holiday weekend and everyone's schedules. But what we do is we dig into the theme for the month. So this month, we're going to explore how we can allow ourselves to flourish into action, abundance, and joy. We've got 4 different weekends. So this will be the first weekend. So this first weekend, we are going to work on what things do I need to flourish. So what some people do is in their September journal, in their monthly journal, they will find a page where they can kind of divide into quarters, because there's 4 this time, and they'll have week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. And so I promise you on week 2, the facilitators will make sure that because you always will see the previous weeks. So they'll give you plenty of time to, if you didn't have a chance to work on week 1, you can work on that. And then you'll also work on week 2 in the following weekend, right? Does that make sense for everybody? Everybody grab a little snapshot of that so you can remember what to do as you're setting up this weekend. And you can always share on Sonder Club, right? Because I know there's probably lots of other folks who would love to see the mind map as well. People really love the mind mapping idea. It gives us a chance to really kind of dig in. So we still have the refer a friend program going, where if you refer a friend with your link and they sign up, you get $10, they get $10. We also have the upgrade to an annual subscription. So if you're on a monthly subscription right now, you can upgrade and save $110 a year. You do have to pay for it up front. So you can scan that little QR code, and then hopefully everyone is in the app, so you can see all the different great suggestions and information that folks have as well. So, and then Bailey, I think, will put the what am I trying to say? The link to the YouTube in the chat. And I am going to put my Spotify playlist in there if anyone wants to listen to those songs. And I always recommend, like, a lot of times when I go to find songs, I just type in the name of a song and then I type the word instrumental after it so that I can find some fun instrumental. There's so many fun songs on Spotify that you can find. So Diane, I'm not sure what kind are you, if you're watching the webinar on the phone, usually you can hit, depending on the type of phone you have, but a lot of times you can hit the volume and the on off button at the same time, like you push them down and hold them and it will take a screenshot. So maybe try that. And again, you can go to that YouTube link and watch the video again if you need to see something and kind of take a look. Yeah, Marty's saying mind map should totally be permanent and added to the journal. You can let them know at hello@silk&sonder, or with your, I think you still get a survey in your email, so you can let them know that. So thank you all for your patience with us this weekend. I know you'll all do a fabulous job of setting everything up this week. We are so excited to see everyone here. We do have 2 more monthly setups, one tomorrow night and one Thursday night. You're welcome to come back again to those, to work on those. And we will, what day of the week do I do my weekly setup? I actually usually do it on Sunday is when I set up for the week. So that's when I usually do mine. But again, it's totally up to you. So yes, and all the weekly setups, we have monthly setups, we have all sorts of things on the YouTube link as well. So check that out. Have a fabulous and safe holiday weekend. We will check back in with you. Hopefully see you at another social soon. Take care, everyone.
I'll keep on blaming the machine. Yeah, I'm talking about it.